Thank you, Ricardo. Great to see you. I don't think I've gotten to see you since warm up last year, so it's great to see you. So as Ricardo said, today I want to talk to you about life after high school and how you can really make the most out of your first experience for the rest of your life. Obviously, I'm speaking English. We have interpretation mode available. Thank you so much, Cerbotics, for making available this event in both Spanish and English. Definitely not something that we at FIRST do as often as we should. But as we talk today, we've got some stuff coming up that hopefully folks will find valuable to participate in a couple of months as well. So my job at FIRST headquarters is everything after high school. So that looks like the FIRST Scholarship program, ways to leverage your first experience into career, and all the other stuff that happens after high school. So what I want to do today is really walk you through how to access the resources that are available to you. And I also want to utilize both the chat and Q&A features today as we're talking. So if you have any specific questions, either about life after high school, the FIRST Scholarship program, or alumni stuff, please go ahead and use the Q&A function on your Zoom to ask those questions, and we'll make sure to address those as we talk today. But what I would like everyone to do right now is using the chat feature is tell me, where are you at? Are you in high school right now? Have you graduated from high school? Are you FIRST alumni? And what are you thinking about doing next? Is college the next step for you? Are you thinking about starting your own company, going directly to work? So in the chat, using the chat function, go ahead and choose send chat to everyone and tell me where you're at in your life. So I'm working at FIRST. How about you? Anybody go ahead and use that chat feature. Tell me what you're thinking about doing next after high school, or if you're already out of high school, what are you doing now and how can FIRST best support you? So as you share that during our conversation today, I will refer back to those and make sure that we're really talking about things that make sense to you who are joining us today, not just anyone. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And what you're going to see is the FIRST website. Nope, looks like maybe I might have froze up on my end. There we go, we're catching up. Excellent. So what you should be seeing is firstinspires.org/alumni. So this webpage should be one of the pages you come to most frequently on the FIRST website. You're probably thinking, but what about the game manual or, blog posts, things like that you might find to be more important in your daily kind of FIRST participation life. I get that. And those are very important to your day-to-day in FIRST. But this page is really going to be your most helpful resource for everything that comes after high school as well. So not just tomorrow, but today. So the first thing that I want to draw folks' attention to, and we're going to spend a little bit of time going through, is if you click on this graphic right here on the page, you will get the FIRST Alumni Handbook. FIRST Alumni Handbook looks like this. I'm opening it in a different window on my page because I'm having some issues. You should not. If you click right here, it should directly open this page for you. So the FIRST Alumni Handbook was designed a few years ago with the intention to be a resource for you for what happens after you finish high school, after you are a student on your FIRST team. How can you take everything that you've learned and all of the experiences that you've had and make those work for you for the rest of your life as well? So we've split this book up into a few sections. The way that we tend to talk about it is education, career, enlistment, and everything else. So FIRST really prepares you for your whole life. And in your cases, folks who are joining us today, the rest of your life. So everything that happens after high school. You can go directly into education. For many folks, we know that, straight to college is still the right choice for you. But for just as many, that's not the best fit. We're seeing many, many students who are going directly into employment, into jobs, either because they've had apprenticeship or internship experience already, or because they've found a career that they're passionate about. We're also seeing students who enlist in services of some sort, whether that's military or public service. We're seeing lots and lots of FIRST alumni who pursue service on their way to that, ultimate education or employment. And then how to really use your FIRST experience for everything else. How do you find your FIRST friends if you decide that college is the next path for you and you decide to go to school, maybe not one that's nearby? How do you find FIRST people when you get there? This book is intended to help guide you that way. So let's go right here to education. We'll talk about the FIRST Scholarship Program a bit here. So the FIRST Scholarship Program, most folks, I think if you're joining us today, know that the FIRST Scholarship Program exists, but might have some questions or be unclear as to the details of the program. So if we click at firstinspires.org/scholarships, we will get to this page, which is where all of the resources for the FIRST Scholarship Program live. Blog posts from current scholarship providers telling you a bit about their scholarship and opportunities that they have available. Some quick sidebars over here. This FIRST Alumni button will get you back to the page we just came from. You'll be able to see some resources. And then this Become a FIRST Scholarship Provider button helps potential scholarship providers to learn how to join the program. If we scroll down, you will see the program. So these are all of the scholarships that are part of the FIRST Scholarship Program right now, today. We've got about 150 exclusive scholarships that are available as part of this program to FIRST participants. Now, these vary in everything from who's making them available all the way to how much those scholarships are good for. We have, one-time $500 scholarships, all the way up to full tuition for college or university. This is also only the specific for FIRST participant scholarships that we're looking at here with these 150. We'll also spend a bit of time thinking about other resources if college is your next step. But what I want to do is show you, knowing that most folks joining us right now are from Mexico, I want to make sure that we show you how you can find specifically scholarship opportunities for you. So the two things that I would recommend that folks use as far as search filters would be scholarship location or citizenship and residency requirements. So the reason why you might choose to use one filter or the other, if you choose scholarship location and you scroll down, you can choose Mexico, you can choose the whole country and see that right now we have two FIRST scholarship providers, exclusive scholarship providers as part of this program in Mexico. We have Tec de Monterrey and ITAM, both of whom are making available scholarships for a number of scholarships for FIRST participants who choose to attend their universities. Neither of those deadlines have passed yet. So if you are in 12th grade in your final year of high school, or 11th or 12th grade, or already in college and looking to attend Tec de Monterrey or ITAM, take a look at these scholarships, click these links to find the applications and apply for those if you're looking to attend either of those universities in Mexico. If you're not looking to go to school in Mexico and you're looking for scholarships that are available to students who are not from the country that they want to go to school in, so in this case, if you're from Mexico and you want to go to school in Australia, you would look for scholarships that have no citizenship requirements. And that shows you all of the scholarships that should be available, at least at an initial level, for you as a student who are seeking to go outside of your home country for education. About 96 of those 150 FIRST scholarships show up. So those are the easy ways to use this program to sort and filter to find scholarships that might be specific for you or your situation. But what if, let's say you are interested in going to school in Mexico, but not to one of these schools, but any other college or university in Mexico? How does FIRST help you along that path as well? So here, we're going to scroll up on this page and we're going to click on Alumni and Scholarship Resources. This page has lots of different resources. It's almost an aggregator of different things that you can access to learn more about how to find scholarships and to leverage your FIRST skills when you are applying for those. This also will be very helpful if college is your next step in helping you find the right colleges or universities for you. So by no means is this an exhaustive list of resources. There are thousands of resources that you can find out in the world for helping you to explore college paths or scholarship opportunities. These are only a few, but once you're here, you can find information on scholarship and aid for specific groups of students, or college admissions resources, like how to take standardized tests if you're doing that in the United States, or you're looking for other testing, how to choose a college major, some videos, things like tips from admissions officers on how to stand out in your college applications. Lots of things that are available here from one of our FIRST sponsors from collegeadvisor.com. But there's also tons of resources that you can find online. So let's just do this together. I don't know what's going to come up. I have not done this search yet. So let's say college in Mexico, engineering. Great. So we have this list that comes up. Doesn't surprise me that Tec de Monterrey is on the top of that list. But let's even click here. So let's say that you were interested in the National Polytechnic Institute. So let's find information about them. Whoop. And you'll see my screen again, because English is my primary language. My screen is translating this into English for me. So let's see some of these areas of study. So they have degree programs in sonography, MRI, medical assisting, etc. So let's think about if you wanted to go into a career in, let's say, MRI work. How might your FIRST experience have helped you on that path? You learned how to work in a team, right? You learned how to find a challenge, understand it, dissect it, start to form a solution, how to test that solution, and then how to move forward. You've also learned how to learn through FIRST. So learning how to learn is one of the hardest things we as humans can do, and you have that skill. Let's say you wanted to do what I did when I was finishing high school and go to college for theater. What could I have learned on a FIRST team that would help me when I was going into that theater major? Certainly, if you're on an FRC team and you're a part of a chairman's presentation team, you've learned how to speak in front of others. You probably don't get stage fright. You can be in front of other people. You're not afraid to maybe mess up a little bit. Those are all skills that you've gained on your FIRST teams that in many ways don't have anything to do with a robot. Things that you've learned, skills that you've gained on your team through building your robot and participating in FIRST that are going to have benefits for you for the rest of your life. So if we think back and we are now ready to apply for that MRI technician degree program that we looked at, Let's say there's an essay component to your admissions essay, or excuse me, to your admissions application. What might you write about? You probably have experiences on your FIRST teams that are applicable to whatever those questions are that you're being asked to answer. So my biggest recommendation, again, if college is the right path for you and you are exploring colleges and universities and then ultimately scholarship opportunities, is to think about what you might want to study or where you might want to study that, and then how your FIRST skills have or will help you to get there. If you scribble yourself a little list of those things, I promise you that it will come in handy over and over again. If you write down a list of all of the things that you've done or will do in FIRST and how that might meet with the rest of your life plans, you will have all of the resources that you need and all of the information that you need for filling out your college applications, for writing those essays, and then ultimately for applying to scholarships as well. So even if you're not applying for one of those FIRST specific scholarships, FIRST and your FIRST experience is definitely something that you're going to lean back on and you're going to find skills from while you are going through that process. All right, so let's look through this a little bit further. Lots of internships and ways that you can leverage your FIRST experience into career opportunities. So we've worked with a number of companies over the years who have done things like webinars or hiring sessions to help FIRST participants and alumni understand that they want to hire you. So let's talk about work for a minute here. Career, what comes after education or kind of pre-career opportunities? How do you think about your resume? How do you list FIRST on your resume? This handbook has hopefully all of the information that you'll need in order to help you to list FIRST on your resume, to showcase and share the information that is necessary for ultimately hiring managers to look at, to know what skills you have and how FIRST helps you to achieve those skills. So one other thing that we're working on with some sponsors coming up, and I'm really excited to be able to share and to hear your thoughts on, is working with some of our sponsors right now to develop a career webinar. So similar kind of panel style where we have maybe 5 people talking to someone else about their career experience and how your FIRST experience can be leveraged into specific jobs. So right now we're working with a couple of sponsors to do English presentations and webinars like that. So keep an eye out on social media and in your email for information about those coming up, most likely in January or February. And also right around that time, we're working on a completely in Spanish webinar, similar career conversations, but totally in Spanish. So I would be really interested to hear from you who are attending this either in the chat or in the Q&A now. What sorts of things would be valuable for you to be able to hear employees at large companies talk about in a webinar like that, where they're specifically, speaking in Spanish? Are there specific things that you, as someone who, either is not English as a first language or English as multiple languages that you might speak? Are there needs that you have or things that we don't consider that we should? I'd love to hear about that so that we can make sure that that panel is as impactful as possible. So, the other thing here in this handbook is how to talk about your FIRST experience once you are doing interviews for roles. So our friends at Qualcomm gave us some really good tips about not just talking about your FIRST student experience, but also anything that you've done as a volunteer or a mentor or a coach. Or if you're on 4400, anything that you've done like FRC warm-up. Really important things for folks to understand, to know the reach and the impact that you're having, even in interviews. There's going to be Lots of questions during that interview. Some will be technical, some will be personal. The biggest kind of piece of advice that I can give you is take a breath and be yourself. And then lastly, in this handbook, we'll talk a little bit about the beyond section. So how can you as FIRST alumni stay involved with FIRST? So we at FIRST headquarters want to stay involved with you, just like the folks in FIRST in Mexico want to stay in touch with you. So if you are a registered student on a FIRST team, or a registered volunteer or coach or mentor who has told us that you're a FIRST alum or you're a student on a team actively right now, you should be hearing from me. So if right now is the first time you've seen my name and you have not seen emails from Michelle Long or alumni at firstinspires.org appearing in your inbox, let me know. Again, use the chat, use the Q&A right now, and we'll happily make sure that you're on the lists that you're looking to be a part of. But what we share via email there are lots of these tips and tricks and ways to stay engaged. Hey, Ricardo, how's it going, my friend?
I'm back, Michelle.
I love it.
Well, I stayed tuned, of course, but well, the spotlight was yours, so we just had your camera on. And well, I don't know if you have anything else to say, or we can proceed into the Q&A.
I think Q&A is perfect now.
Okay, so if you allow me, I have a few questions already here. So first one from Diego Lozano. He asks, how often are scholarships available? Kind of an open question, but
yeah, great question. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Great. So the way that the FIRST Scholarship Program works is that every year on September 1st, so right about the time when you're going back to school, we start the FIRST Scholarship Program for the upcoming year. Most scholarships require that students apply for them during their final or last year of high school. In the US, that's 12th grade. So you'll see 12th, but really that's your last year of school. And we post new scholarships all the time. So I know that right now we had 150 listed. I saw this morning that we have a couple more that will be posted probably later today. So it's worth checking back for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Next question from Eddie Alberto Hernandez Martinez says, I'm currently in high school and I want to continue my studies in an engineering degree related to robotics. Congratulations. But what comes next? So I think what he means is, for you, what's the very first step in his decision?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I would recommend as a first step is to think about where you want to study that engineering degree related to robotics. Do you want to stay in Mexico? Do you want to travel somewhere else? And regardless of what that answer is, are there specific schools that you're interested in? And if so, you're kind of listing out why you might be interested in one over another, helping you to identify the right school or schools for you. Ricardo, if I remember correctly, are you in college right now?
Yeah, I'm in college.
How did you make that decision? What did that look like for you?
Well, so I don't want to disappoint you, but I'm not studying an engineering degree. I'm not studying an engineering degree. I'm in major for law.
That's great.
Yeah, it's kind of a different decision from what some people would expect you after being years working in a robotics team. So they are like, oh, you're not being an engineer? Well, what are you going to be if you weren't in the robotics team? But they didn't consider that a robotics team, well, has a lot of things to learn and has a lot of fields of study. So, well, after deciding what I wanted to study, I decided where I wanted it to study. So I literally made a list of my abilities and what colleges may be the best for my abilities. So that's how I kind of made the decision. So it was a lot of preparation, but it was more about being ready. So not be expecting what was going to go next. So being and step further than my own mind. And well, I think I made the right decision. I'm not being an engineer, but I'm hoping to be a FIRST related lawyer.
I love that. And I love that you shared, and the way that you said that you said that some people might think that you're not doing the thing you're supposed to after FIRST. I'll tell you, there's no right answer to what you're supposed to do after FIRST. Really, our goal is to help, ensure that people can be inspired to be leaders and innovators in whatever they do, whether that's, a leader being the president of a company or a leader in your own home. So really just thinking about how can we as people who live in this technologically centered world do that. So Ricardo, it is incredible that you are taking your FIRST skills and you are going to apply them to law. Certainly the world that we live in today and the laws that we live under, have a lot of room to grow, given, again, the technologically enabled world that we live in today.
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah. Please.
I just wanted to add that just as me, like that I'm in law school, there are a lot of people that may be interested in arts or maybe medicine or being a doctor, or also engineering. So architecture, a lot of things that FIRST students get their skills on and, well, share them to the world in a various list of professions.
Exactly. And that's a really, really great point. I was just having a conversation prior to this with folks at FIRST headquarters, a number of whom are also FIRST alumni. And one of the things that we were talking about is how knowing what you can do after high school is such a hard thing sometimes, just knowing what opportunities are available to you. And if you don't have exposure to individuals who have the sorts of experiences that you're interested in, then you're potentially missing out today. So something that we at FIRST are really looking at is how can we help folks to understand all of the opportunities available after high school, some of which are engineering, some of which are college, but by no means is that the only choice or the right choice for folks.
Well, Michelle, I think that the question you made me made more people interested about various ways to begin and take their first step in choosing their college opportunities and how FIRST can help them. So I don't know if you agree, I have a couple more questions for you. So Evelyn asks, at which school grade should I start applying?
Great question. So many colleges and universities start to accept admissions applications during your 11th grade or junior or your second to last year of high school, however you refer to that. But many scholarships and some colleges and universities will only accept application for admission once you are in that last year of high school. I generally encourage people to start to explore what you might want to do after high school in your first, second, third years. By the time you're in your third year of high school, you want to be kind of identifying which of those paths is the right next step for you, whether that's education, enlistment of some sort, or direct to employment. And then, really spending that third year exploring, what is the next step for you on that path? If it's if it's education, where might you want to go to school or what might you want to study? If it's employment, what are the sorts of roles that you're looking for? Are there certifications that you need in order to get that job, et cetera?
Awesome. So this next question looks like one you would find in the chairman's summary questions you answer every year. So it says, for you, Michelle, how FIRST impacted your life?
I'm so glad to have that question. So I am also, before I answer, I'm writing my email into the chat here. So anybody who is interested in talking about any of this, just reach out, send me an email. The worst thing that I could ever say is, I don't know, or I can't help, but very rarely is that my answer. So please do reach out. So to answer the question is, what is FIRST's impact on me? That's a great question. So I will say I was not on a FIRST team when I was in high school. It is like my not so secret anymore shame. But I'd like to think that if I had the opportunity that I would have been. But certainly I've worked at FIRST headquarters for 10 years now, which is longer than I ever expected to work anywhere in my entire life. And I've had probably 5 different jobs. So really, I would say, outside of the mission, which I am incredibly passionate about, just the idea that I could find a company or a community of people that I could, like Ricardo said, make a list of my skills and then figure out how to apply them. When I started at FIRST headquarters, I worked as an executive or administrative assistant. I helped people in their offices, making stuff happen, doing things. And then I found things that I was specifically passionate about or excited about, and that I had skills that could help benefit, which is how I found myself where I am for the last few years. So FIRST has definitely inspired me in that way. And then I will say, from a mission standpoint, I love every single thing about my job, just like, everyone here obviously loves FIRST and is super passionate about it. I love that I work at a place that, doesn't just do the work that we're doing. We're doing that work in order to create a community and to sustain a community and to ensure that that community is an acceptable and accepting place for everyone. So we mentioned at the top that I was going to talk a little bit about diversity and inclusion as well. Like alumni work, diversity and inclusion work that we do at FIRST is a part of every single thing that every one of us does. It's all of our responsibilities to help every person in our community to understand what their potential and what their opportunities are, to help them understand their alumni stuff. But even more importantly than that, it is each of our duties to make sure that our community is a welcoming and inclusive place for anyone and everyone, especially those folks who have historically been marginalized or underserved for a variety of reasons. That means for us, for people who have found ourselves for whatever reason in a position of privilege, it's our job and our duty to help leverage that and ensure that FIRST and all of the communities that we're a part of become more accepting, more equitable, and more inviting. So even before we decided I was going to say any of that, I wore my Pride Robots shirt. And I think it's really important that we as a community continue to, we always say to be loud, but not just about FIRST, but to be loud about being good people and caring about one another, and especially about ensuring that, folks who traditionally haven't gotten to be a part of those kind of mainstream opportunities, that we absolutely, ensure that we open our arms and open our doors to everyone. I see we have a couple more questions. Ricardo, do we have time for maybe one more?
Yeah, sure we do.
Awesome.
So just let me add that you have been working in FIRST for 10 years and you've done an excellent job, both of you. And I think this new department in charge of diversity and equality and equity in FIRST. Yeah, so both of you have done an excellent job. I think Caitlin is in charge of that department, so she's done an excellent job too.
Yeah, that's Janelle Catlin. She's incredible, our director of diversity and inclusion. And we've done some really, I think, exciting stuff, especially in the last year. And I'm really excited for what that looks like in the future.
Well,
thank you.
We'll keep it posted. And an anonymous attendee says, although FIRST has lots of scholarship options, I feel that us Mexicans have a difficult time getting a scholarship abroad. So the question is, how big or small is the proportion of Mexican and or Latin American students in FIRST scholarship programs in U.S. universities?
That's a great question. And my answer, and that it normally isn't, but in this case is, I don't know. I don't know the proportion of Mexican or Latin American students, FIRST or otherwise, who are at universities in the US, but I will completely agree with this attendee and say that I think as any student going from one country to another, especially coming to the United States, if that's, in this case, what this person is referring to, that international students tend to receive less aid or less funding opportunities overall. So not necessarily associated with FIRST. So if you are one of those students who absolutely feels like you have to look outside of Mexico for university, send me an email. Let's talk about it. I don't have an answer now, but together, hopefully, we can come up with some resources or some tools. And then next time we're having this conversation, hopefully we'll have a better answer. So my email's in the chat, and it is really easy. It's mlong, my first initial, my last name, at firstinspires.org.
Awesome. So I think that for our last question, I might say that, well, we are a couple months away from what I think is going to be, again, in live regional events. So we hope to see you at Champs in Houston, hopefully. And, well, it's going to be the first event for some of our rookie members and also the 2020 rookies and some 2019 rookies. So, well, it's going to be the first time they are in the event, like getting the whole FIRST experience. And, well, for most of them, it's going to be also their time to begin applying for college and getting all this information about scholarships. Just your advice for them, for those who are feeling unready or kind of worried for what comes next. What's your advice?
Great question. So first, I would say get excited. My favorite thing about FIRST is getting to see it in real life. I got some of that in the last, year or so as a virtual judge or a virtual mentor or coach, but it's so different when you're in the same space together. So I would say if you have the opportunity to be at in-person events safely, is to do that, to go and to meet people and to use that opportunity to make connections. Some people might say networking. I think that can be a scary word or feel like it's something intense. Networking really is getting to know people, is saying, hi, my name's Michelle. I work at FIRST. What about you? And letting that person respond and, catching up on what they say, finding common interest and common goals. So really using your time at events, whether regional events, or if you make it to Houston, Texas for the FIRST Championship, to use those opportunities to grow your FIRST community and to make new FIRST friends. And again, if you do come to FIRST Championship, come see me. I will be up in the Innovation Fair area. We will have some FIRST scholarship providers in attendance, along with some sponsored companies that you can talk to about employment opportunities. I'll be in and out of that area, but I'm usually pretty easy to spot running around championships. So please, if you see me, stop me and say hello. I love nothing more than the chance to get to know you, whoever you are. That seems so silly, but the time that I've gotten to spend with folks on 4400 and in Torreon has just been so incredible. And I'm just so glad to be a part of your community. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And even if some teams don't get to championship, they still have your email, right?
Exactly. My email is still mlong@firstinspires.org. So please do reach out. I would love to meet you.